Thank you. I want to talk to you a little bit about youth. We talk about that we are counting on youth to be our future. But how well are we listening to their voices, to their opinions, to their knowledge? Are we engaging them in planning, in policies, in decision-making processes that impact their lives? Well, at the Victoria Foundation, we've been well engaged with youth. And one of the results is Victoria's Youth Vital Signs, and we're launching this today. And this is a report that looks at Victoria's vitality seen through the eyes of youth. So where did this all start? In 2006, the Victoria Foundation launched Victoria's Vital Signs, a community report card that looks at Victoria as a place to live, learn, work, and grow. And why did we do this? We wanted to better connect the philanthropy within the foundation to what's going on, the opportunities and challenges in our community, to better inform our donors, ourselves, and use this as a tool to make granting decisions. So, right after this was launched, we passed this around to our granting folks, and this does become a useful tool. Well, at the same time, we decided to do an experiment. We had $50,000, and we brought in some youth from neighboring high schools to have them take part in this as well. Well, the awesome thing was they just did a tremendous job. But the feedback was, you know, there's no youth vital signs in here. This is all about the rest of the world. It doesn't have a youth voice. So we thought, well, this would be the beginning of us starting a separate report for youth. So we had a cross-section of youth from high schools, universities, from nonprofit organizations that have youth groups, friends and neighbors. So if you would have had the chance to come into one of our focus groups, these are some of the characters that you would have met. You may have met Jason, who is a young high school student in one of our private schools, sitting directly across from Chris. Totally different life, same age. But Chris has dropped out of high school, been involved in addictions, been homeless, and now has his very first job. Then if you look a little further, you'd meet Megan, a young woman with severe physical disabilities. Or perhaps Phil, second-year university student, 2 jobs, worried about paying the rent, and also worried about the student loans. So we learned a tremendous amount from these focus groups, but they also learned from each other. So one piece of advice they gave us was if you're going to go out in the community and interview young people, don't just go to the usual places, the schools and the universities. Go to some place where you're maybe not comfortable or where youth gather. So we took this separately, and I thought, well, I could go to some place that I don't usually frequent. I chose a skateboard park. Dressed casually and clipboard under my arm and strolled right down into the park, down the stairs, onto this little sort of concrete platform. And just as I got comfortable sort of looking around, someone says, "You shouldn't be sitting there." Turned around to see where the voice is coming from. So skateboard just nicely glides over my head, right in front of me. Well, I made it back up the stairs quite quickly to a very amused crowd. Comments like, "There's a train over there that leaves in half an hour if you want to go jump in front of the tracks." So, humility. So, once they found out I wasn't with the police, they shared quite openly. We heard their stories, their opinions, and their suggestions. But leaving the park that day, I took away several things. One was, who is going to listen to us? And secondly, who's going to stand up for us? So when we came back to put the report together, we found that the youth had identified sort of 5 priority areas and 5 areas that needed immediate attention. The first one being affordable housing. The second one is issues around poverty. I mean, do you know that the homeless population here in Victoria, 10% is represented by youth. The next concern was transportation, complications, and cost. And then the next one is having their voice heard. And the last one was around education, more education around drug abuse, addiction prevention, and rehabilitation. So that was their findings. But is there actually data that supports this? So this is where I'd like to engage you. Some of you have those little audience responders. All you're going to do is point it at the screen, choose 1, 2, or 3, make sure the green light is on. You'll have 7 seconds to answer. So here's your first question. And can everybody see that? Okay, starting now. Okay, you can see, well done. The answer is number 3, 73%. So you can see why this would be the number 1 concern for our youth. And here's our second question on unemployment. Go ahead and cast your vote now. You guys are good. Okay, number 2 is the correct answer, 11.3. But the interesting thing about these figures, 10.8 was the figure for 2009, and 13.8 is the provincial standing. Youth told us that they wanted more money spent on drug rehabilitation. So perhaps if you go ahead and vote again, starting now. I think this is probably the most shocking stat of all, and it's number 3, 59%. And the interesting thing is the first figure, 49.7, was the rate in Vancouver taken at the same time, and the middle one, 57.8, is the provincial one. So no wonder youth identify this as a challenge. And here's your last question. Number 3 is the correct answer. And this group called Umbrella has a client service, sort of a peer-to-peer service. And they are telling us that out of those 680 clients that they just couldn't believe this high amount of youth that are coming to them. And the problem there is not just for the youth, but also for the nonprofits. So thank you for participating in that. And what are we doing at the Victoria Foundation? Well, first of all, we have about 7 area high schools that are involved in a youth and philanthropy program, using these reports to help determine where the funds should go. Secondly, we have a pilot program called Youth Kids, which is aimed at the middle school to help them better understand what's going on in their community. And then there's the grants that we do, grants that are supporting prevention, intervention, homelessness, bringing kids off of the streets. We're concerned with literacy. So what happens is these grants become the voices of youth and put their votes into action. So that's just a glimpse of this report, but now we want you to kick this off. So if you read the report and find something in there that motivates you, use it as the starting point for conversations or a call to action. Pass it around as broadly as you can. Refer people to our website. Now I'd like you all to stand. Youth are our future, but they need somebody to stand up for them in this community and communities all over. Tomorrow's the International Day of the Child, a day where we should all reflect on the precious gifts of both children and youth. So just think about what you can do. What action could you take? Can you be their voice? And by doing that, you'll join us in connecting people who care with causes that matter. Thank you.